Bedtime Stories with Grandpa. Cinderella. Once upon a time, there was a rich man whose dear wife became very ill. When she felt her strength fading, she called her daughter to her bedside and said gently, "My sweet child, stay kind and good, and God will always help you. I'll always be close to you in your heart." Then she closed her eyes and fell into a gentle, enchanted sleep. The girl missed her and visited the quiet place where her mother rested, but she stayed kind and good, just as her mother had wished. When the second winter came and she turned 18, the snow covered that special place like a soft white blanket. When spring arrived and melted the snow, her father married again. The new wife brought 2 daughters with her. Though they seemed lovely on the outside, they were unkind on the inside. Difficult days began for the poor stepchild. "She doesn't belong with us in the parlor," they said. "If she wants to eat bread, she must help in the kitchen." They took away her pretty clothes and gave her an old gray smock and wooden shoes. "Look at the proud little princess in rags," they laughed, guiding her roughly to the kitchen. From morning till night she worked, rising early, carrying water, lighting fires, cooking, washing, and scrubbing. The stepsisters made her life hard. They teased her, spilled peas and lentils into the ashes, and told her to pick them out. At night, when she was tired, she had no bed. She curled up on the warm hearth by the fire. Because she often had dust and soot on her, they called her Cinderella. One day, the father planned a trip to the market fair. He asked his stepdaughters what gifts they wanted. "Beautiful dresses," said one. "Pearls and jewels," said the other. "And you, Cinderella?" he asked kindly. "Dear father," she said softly, "please bring me the first twig that brushes your hat on your way home." He bought fancy dresses, pearls, and jewels for the stepsisters. On his way home, a hazel twig gently brushed his hat from a green thicket, so he took it. At home, he gave the stepdaughters their gifts. To Cinderella, he handed the hazel twig. She thanked him warmly, took it to her mother's resting place, and planted it there, and soon it grew into a lovely tree. Each day, Cinderella visited the tree 3 times, whispering her wishes softly, and each time a little white bird landed on the branches, tossing down whatever Cinderella had wished for. One day, the king announced a wonderful festival at his castle. It would last 3 days, and every young girl was invited, so his son could choose a bride. When the 2 stepsisters heard they could go, they were excited. They called, "Cinderella, help us get ready. Brush our shoes and fix our hair. We're going to the royal ball." Cinderella did as she was asked, but she felt sad. She dreamed of going to the festival too. With tears, she asked her stepmother if she might go. "You, Cinderella?" The woman laughed unkindly. "You're covered in dust. You have no pretty dress or shoes. You can't possibly dance." But Cinderella begged again. Finally, the stepmother said, "Fine, I've poured lentils into the ashes. If you can sort them out in 2 hours, you may come." The girl ran into the garden and called gently, "Sweet doves, dear turtle doves, all birds beneath the sky. please come and help me sort. The good ones in the pot, the rest leave where they lie. 2 white doves fluttered through the kitchen window, followed by turtle doves, and soon many birds joined. They pecked softly. Pick, 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 sorting lentils quickly and neatly. In less than an hour they finished and flew away. Cinderella brought the bowl to her stepmother with hope in her eyes, but the stepmother frowned. "No, Cinderella, you have no proper dress and wouldn't fit in at the ball. It would not be right." When Cinderella began to cry again, the stepmother said, "Fine. If you can sort 2 bowls of lentils from the ashes in just 1 hour, you may come." But secretly, she thought this was impossible. She dumped 2 bowls of lentils into the ashes and left. Cinderella ran to the garden and called out again, "Sweet doves, dear turtle doves, all birds beneath the sky, please come and help me sort. The good ones in the pot, the rest leave where they lie." And just like before, 2 white doves flew to the window, followed by the turtle doves and birds from every corner of the sky. They landed gently in the kitchen and began sorting. Pick, pick, pick. Soon, every lentil was neatly placed back into the bowls. In less than half an hour, they finished their task. The birds fluttered away, and Cinderella eagerly brought the bowls to her stepmother. But the woman shook her head and said coldly, "It's no use. You can't come. You have no pretty dress, and you wouldn't know how to dance. We'd be embarrassed." Then she left with her 2 proud daughters, leaving Cinderella alone. When the house was empty, Cinderella ran to her mother's resting place beneath the hazel tree and softly whispered, "Shake and rustle, little tree, send your lovely gifts to me." Instantly, the little white bird tossed down a beautiful gown shimmering with gold and silver, along with slippers stitched gently with silk and silver threads. Cinderella put on her sparkling dress and happily hurried to the royal ball. At the palace, her stepsisters and stepmother didn't recognize her. She looked so radiant in her golden gown that they believed she was a princess from a distant land. They never imagined it was Cinderella, who they thought was home by the hearth. The prince noticed her immediately and walked straight toward her. Smiling, he asked her to dance. He danced only with her, politely telling others, "She is my partner tonight." They twirled joyfully until evening came. Cinderella then slipped away quietly, but the prince followed. "Let me walk you home," he said gently, hoping to see where this wonderful girl lived. But she quickly darted ahead and hid in the cozy little garden shed. The prince waited until her father returned home and told him the mysterious girl ran into the garden shed. The father wondered if it could possibly be Cinderella. He opened the shed, but it was empty. In the kitchen, Cinderella lay curled up comfortably by the warm fire, dressed again in her dusty gray smock, an oil lamp glowing softly nearby. She had quietly slipped from the garden shed, returned her lovely gown to the bird at the hazel tree, and put on her old clothes. If you're enjoying this story, give it a like and subscribe for more magical tales. The next day, the festival continued, and again the stepmother and her daughters left for the palace, As soon as they were gone, Cinderella ran to the tree and whispered, "Shake and rustle, little tree, send your lovely gifts to me." This time, the bird dropped an even more beautiful gown, shimmering brightly. Cinderella dressed quickly and hurried to the ball. When she entered, everyone gazed in wonder. She was more beautiful than ever. The prince, who had eagerly awaited her, danced only with Cinderella. Whenever someone else asked to dance with her, he smiled and said kindly, "She is my partner tonight." As the sun began to set, Cinderella quietly left again. The prince followed, hoping to see where she lived. This time, she climbed gracefully into a tall pear tree. Hiding among its thick leaves and golden fruit, the prince waited patiently until her father arrived. He explained, "She vanished, and I think she climbed into the pear tree." The father, puzzled, wondered once more if it was Cinderella. But when they carefully looked in the branches, no one was there. Back by the warm kitchen hearth, Cinderella sat as always, a bit dusty from ashes. She had slipped down quietly from the tree, returned the gown to the bird at the hazel tree, and put on her gray smock again. On the third day, when her family had left again, Cinderella ran to her mother's resting place beneath the hazel tree and softly whispered, "Shake and rustle, little tree. Send your lovely gifts to me." This time, the bird sent down the most dazzling gown yet, so radiant it sparkled like sunlight. Her slippers were made entirely of shimmering gold. When she appeared at the ball, everyone was amazed. The prince eagerly danced only with her, proudly saying to all, "She is my partner tonight." When evening came, Cinderella hurried away. The prince tried to follow, but she moved swiftly. As she ran down the stairs, one golden slipper gently slipped off and stuck to the step. The prince picked it up carefully. It was delicate and glittered beautifully. The next morning, he visited Cinderella's home and announced gently but firmly, "Only the girl whose foot fits this golden slipper shall become my bride." The two stepsisters were excited. They believed their feet were quite lovely. The eldest tried first, but her big toe wouldn't fit. Her mother whispered quickly, "Just squeeze it in. Once you're queen, you won't need to walk much anyway." The girl tried again, forcing her foot painfully into the slipper, smiling as if nothing was wrong, and went to the prince. He placed her gently onto his horse and started to ride away. But as they passed the hazel tree, two white doves softly called from the branches, "Coo, coo, 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 that shoe's not true. The fit's too tight. The bride's not right." The prince glanced down and saw her discomfort. Kindly, he turned his horse and brought the unhappy girl home. "This is not the one," he said softly. "Let the other sister try." The younger sister squeezed her foot into the slipper next. Her heel was too large, but she forced it anyway. She tried to smile bravely and joined the prince. But again, as they passed beneath the hazel tree, the gentle doves called clearly, "Coo, coo, 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 that shoe's not true. The fit's too tight. The bride's not right." The prince noticed her pain too and quickly brought her back home. "This one isn't right either," he said gently. "Do you have another daughter?" "No," said the father, hesitating. "Well, Only Cinderella, my first wife's daughter, but she's just a little kitchen maid. She couldn't possibly be the bride." The prince gently insisted, though the stepmother protested. "She's covered in soot. She can't possibly be seen." But the prince waited patiently. Cinderella was called. Quickly, Cinderella washed her face and hands and stepped shyly into the room. The prince smiled warmly and handed her the golden slipper. Cinderella sat on a little stool, took off her wooden clog, and slipped her foot perfectly into the golden shoe. When she stood up, the prince saw her gentle eyes and recognized immediately that she was the lovely girl who had danced with him. Joyfully, he declared, "This is my true bride." The stepmother and stepsister stared in disbelief. The prince kindly helped Cinderella onto his horse after she agreed and rode away with her. As they passed beneath the hazel tree, the two white doves sang sweetly, "Coo, coo, 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 the shoe fits true. The bride is right. He found her tonight." Then the gentle doves fluttered softly onto Cinderella's shoulders, one on each side, and stayed with her. At the royal wedding celebration, the stepsisters came quietly. Cinderella kindly welcomed them, forgiving their past cruelty. Seeing her gentle heart, the stepsisters felt ashamed and deeply sorry. From that day on, they changed, learning to be kinder, humbler, and more thoughtful. And so, Cinderella lived happily ever after with the prince because she remained kind, patient, and true to her heart. Even when others were unkind, she never gave up believing in goodness. This story reminds us that being gentle, honest, and helpful, even when life feels unfair, can lead to wonderful surprises. So always treat others with love and kindness, just like Cinderella did, and one day your own dreams might come true too.